Sophie, thank you. Hello, good evening. Welcome to Thursday's Look North. Our top story tonight. Calls for a total overhaul of outdated drugs laws following a rise in the use of nitrous oxide or laughing gas among under 25s.
It can cost the arm, cost the legs, or sometimes just cost the spine, to be honest, because I know somebody that's took on it and they have to drill a hole within the spine now because it's damaged him that bad.
We'll speak to the chair of a parliamentary committee which is telling the government to completely reform drug misuse laws. Also tonight, a last-ditch bid to save Wilko fails and hundreds now face losing their jobs in Worksop. Meet the dog from York who's become a new celebrity on the television quiz show Pointless. And what did you do over the summer? Welcome to the Space Jungle, created by clever kids in Huddersfield.
And did you catch a glimpse of last night's super blue moon? Loads of you have been sending your photos in. We'll take a little look at those later in the programme, and I will be back, of course, with a full forecast.
Hello, thank you for watching. First tonight, to calls for a complete overhaul of laws surrounding drug use. Health experts have today written to the government calling for stricter licensing laws over the use of nitrous oxide or laughing gas. And a memorial ceremony was held in Leeds this morning for people who've lost loved ones to drugs overdoses. Across West Yorkshire, there were 243 deaths from drug poisoning in 2021. That's the last year for which figures are available. Drug-related deaths in Leeds doubled between 2011 and 2021. And 638 people died from drug poisoning in the city during that 10-year period. Well, Charles Heslett has the first of two reports tonight looking at the serious problem involving nitrous oxide use in the city of Bradford.
Sometimes it does cost their life. If not cost their life, it does cost a long-term injury to them. It can cost the arm, cost the legs, or sometimes just cost the spine, to be honest, because I know somebody that's took on it and they have to drill a hole within the spine now because it's damaged him that bad.
Hasnain Shafiq is a mental health ambassador working in schools across Bradford. What age group are we talking about that you're seeing doing nitrous then, doing balloons?
We're talking from the youngest about 15, 16, but I'll say from about 18 to about 26, 28.
And are we just talking young men or...?
No, women as well, female. These are female, these are girls, honestly, yeah. These are girls who will say to their parents, so you know what, mum, dad, I'm going out on a night shift, I'm working probably care home or warehouse, wherever it is. But the reality is that they're in some sort of car park taking balloons.
Nitrous oxide or laughing gas has a variety of uses, from medical painkiller to making whipped cream. But it's become popular, especially among young people, as a recreational drug. Colourless, odourless and wrongly seen as harmless, its use has spread across the country. It causes serious health effects, including disability, blindness and even sexual dysfunction.
It's widespread in different areas. Everybody was seeing this, but also colleagues in other towns and cities across the UK were picking it up as well, and the indicator was the silver vials. We first raised the flag around nitrous oxide and the harms of it in 2020 during the pandemic. There was a difficult situation here at the community centre where we had young people climbing on the roof and saying things that just didn't make sense, like we can fly, and there was a lot of nitrous oxide usage at the time.
A number of leading neurologists and safeguarding experts have sent a letter to Policing Minister Chris Philp. In the letter, which the BBC's seen, they express worries that nitrous oxide is too accessible and needs stricter licensing laws. But they're concerned that the government proposals to criminalise possession won't deter those most at risk. Dr David Nichol was among those who signed the letter.
We're seeing more men than women, median age about 23, 24, often from the Asian community, but not exclusively. And I'd emphasise, we're also seeing people from, clubbing backgrounds, rave backgrounds and things, presenting with maybe tingling in their hands and feet, difficulty walking or unable to walk.
The debate now is whether to launch a public health campaign or make it illegal. Charles Heslett, BBC Look North, Bradford.
Thanks, Charles. Well, as mentioned, we'll stay on the same theme because a memorial ceremony was held in Leeds today for people who've lost loved ones to a drugs overdose. It was organised by Forward Leeds and held in a park close to Leeds Minster. Corinne Wheatley went along.
Sharing messages and memories. Today was a chance for families and friends to show that their loved ones lost to drug-related deaths aren't forgotten.
Year on year for the last 10 years, the amount of drug-related deaths have increased. For us here in Leeds, that means we're losing about 7 people a month to overdose. So for us, it's really important that we get out here and commemorate those people and remember that there are people behind those statistics and really remember them for who they are, not the number behind it.
This gathering in Leeds was held to mark Drug Overdose Awareness Day. Graham shared his story. He got himself into recovery and now works for the support service Forward Leeds, helping other people. But it could have been very different.
One day, luckily, I was moaning about how far it was to go home to a fellow addict, if you like. And he said, oh, there's a house around the corner, come with me. And that day I injected the same amount I did every day, but I went over. He called the ambulance and luckily my life was saved. If I'd have gone home that day, I wouldn't be here. So, yeah, I count myself as one of the lucky ones. A lot of people turn to drugs to soothe themselves, to cope. And before they know it, they're in too deep and they have to use every day because they've struggled to believe that they can get through the day without it. And they're real people.
There is huge stigma around addiction, and that can even extend to those who are left behind.
Anyone that's grieving for anyone in life, it's a complex matter, but when you don't feel able to say they took drugs and overdosed and died, that can lead to people feeling very isolated, and that's where we come in. You know, we support family members as well.
These yellow hearts with people's stories will be hung on remembrance trees around the support hubs in the city. Their message to everyone affected by addiction and grief: you're not alone. Corinne Wheatley, BBC Look North, Leeds.
Well, our 2 reports on drugs misuse come as the government faces calls from its own MPs to overhaul legislation surrounding production, possession and supply. The Home Affairs Committee has today said there's a need to reform the entire misuse of drugs regulations. Earlier, I spoke to the chair of that committee, Dame Diana Johnson, and I began by asking her how urgently this reform is now needed.
The law that covers drug use in this country is over 50 years old. We think it's time for a review of that Act of Parliament. We also say now we deal with drugs, not only looking at the criminal side of drugs, but actually the public health side to try and support people who need help and treatment. So we think that the Act is actually due for review. It's over 50 years old, so it's urgent.
Drugs-related deaths between 2011 and 2021 in Leeds, for instance, doubled. That's far too much, isn't it? What can we do practically to reduce those numbers?
We could, for example, have safe consumption facilities as a pilot to see whether that would help save lives. We could also, as I know the West Yorkshire Deputy Mayor for Policing has advocated, have naloxone, which is something police officers could carry to deal with people who overdose. So there are things we can do, but we do need to review and look again at our 1971 Act.
Are the penalties for those convicted of producing and supplying drugs sufficient to act as a deterrent, or do they need to be stiffened up, do you think?
Well, we totally support the government in going after the criminals who are bringing drugs into our communities, and we know they wreck lives and they wreck families. So we support that, but we also think we need to focus as well on the treatment options for people who've got themselves addicted to drugs. We want it treated as an illness, and we think that's really important. So both are equally important in our view, going after the criminals and making sure that the penalties are strong enough, but supporting individuals and their families too.
As you mentioned, the scourge of drugs blights many young lives. Is there a sufficient support, you think, out there for people to be weaned off drugs?
I think it's getting better. There were huge cuts to drug and alcohol services in the years of austerity. The government now have a 10-year plan. They're putting money back into services, but it's also about rebuilding the workforce to provide those treatment options to people. So there's a lot of work to do, but I do think that the government are on the right track now. We just need to make sure that all the options for treatment support are there for individuals who need it, and their families as well, because families and carers suffer as much from the blight of drugs.
OK, Dame Diana Johnson, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. You're
watching Thursday's Look North. Still to come on tonight's programme. Once in a blue moon, the astronomical phenomena lighting up our skies and delighting stargazers everywhere. Hello, before that, though, hundreds of people are losing their jobs at the head office of the retailer Wilko in Worksop. It comes after a £90 million bid for the failing company was rejected by administrators. The bidder was unable to provide proof of funds in time. More redundancies in Worksop are due to be announced next week, as Simon Ward reports.
For 269 people who work here at Wilko's head office in Worksop, Monday will be their last day at work. A late bid to buy the company, which went into administration with 12,500 jobs at risk, has now come to nothing. A company called M2 Capital had put a bid of £90 million on the table, and the firm said it would guarantee jobs for 2 years. But the administrators for Wilko say the paperwork wasn't filed on time, and there are now no viable offers to buy the whole of the company. In another blow for staff, redundancies are expected to be announced next week on the distribution side of the business here in Worksop and at Newport in Wales, although the number of job losses hasn't yet been confirmed. Wilko's 400 shops are still open, but the future of the company, founded in Leicester in 1930, is very uncertain. The local authority that covers Worksop says Wilko's staff are the priority.
What we want to do is approach other logistics companies that are based here. There's many logistics companies based in Bassett Law. We've got Eddie Stobart's, Wincanton, B&Q, DHL, and there's a really good workforce that they could very quickly recruit, and those people could step into good jobs very, very quickly. But even more importantly, we want to speak to those companies and say, this is a very good site, situated on the A57 and the A1. Why not look at your growth plans and come and expand here?
The union representing staff is of course worried about the latest news.
Our members have been over a roller coaster for the last year. You know, there's been hopes that have come and have gone that have been dashed. I think for a lot of members, they're still in a state of shock. There's a number of them who are devastated. There's a load who are angry. Most of them just feel that this was avoidable, and we obviously share that view.
Hopes now seem to be that parts of Wilko can be saved. The owner of HMV is understood to be in talks about a possible deal. Simon Ward, BBC Look North, Worksop.
OK, let's get some news in brief now. Parts of 2 Bradford primary schools will stay closed when pupils return for the new term after a potentially dangerous type of concrete was found. Cross Flats and Eldwick primary schools both contain a lightweight form of concrete called rack, which are often used between the 1960s and the 1990s and only lasts 30 years. Temporary classrooms will be set up at both schools. The Department for Education said the plans are in place to minimise the impact on learning and provide schools with the right funding and support to deal with the concrete. A 7-year-old boy has died and a driver has been arrested after an incident in Huddersfield last night. Jack Rook was taken to hospital after he was seriously injured in a collision with a black BMW on Longfield Avenue in Gokha. He died a short time later. The driver of the car, a man in his 30s, was arrested on suspicion of causing death by careless driving and remains in police custody. Now, the government has refused to commit to adding swimming pools to the energy bills discount scheme. 100 pools in Yorkshire are now over 40 years old, and some places like Kirklees are facing losing many of them. The government says it's investing £63 million, so our political editor James Vincent went to ask the minister responsible if there's any more help coming.
Swimming pools round here are trying to keep their heads above water. Energy costs and council cuts mean that even the ones that are still open are looking for help. Stocksbridge Leisure Centre faced closure in 2013 when Sheffield Council pulled their funding.
Well, this is the reality of council cuts.
10 years since the community took it over, the water and the swimmers are back.
Faye, these are the biomass boilers. They help heat the pool. How helpful have they been?
They've been tremendous.
The biomass boiler saves money, but they still need gas as well. And they want to ask the government why leisure centres aren't allowed on the scheme for energy bill help.
I mean, it covers, I think libraries are still protected to a certain degree, but not leisure centres, which to me seems strange. It's odd.
400 pools have been lost across the country since 2010. In Yorkshire, 100 pools are over 40 years old. There are 7 currently at risk of closing in Kirklees alone, and 5 have closed temporarily in Sheffield for repairs this year.
So this is where the cubicles will be.
There are some new pools opening. Double Olympic champion Rebecca Adlington is behind a new one at Escape in Castleford.
We've seen 200 swimming pools close since COVID, and over the next 10 years we're going to see 2,000 swimming pools close. For me, that's not acceptable.
Handy then that the minister responsible for sport was in Leeds today.
Will you change the rules to include them in the energy efficiency scheme, the discounts that you're giving to other public buildings?
So we've invested £63 million in swimming pools, and that's part of a package on sports overall. Almost £1 billion we're spending on sports. We recognise it's really important to be healthy, and there are other schemes that other government departments are doing with other packages.
It does sound like a no or a not answered question, that you're not considering putting them back in the scheme so they can have that help.
So I think, as I've explained, we've spent £63 million. Some of that is an energy support package. That's the package on the table at the moment. Of course, we always look at things, but that's the package that we recently announced.
For some pools, though, that help might not come soon enough. James Vincent, BBC Look North, Leeds.
Next tonight, a dog from York which helps her deaf owner to hear has just become famous in her own right. Pickle has become the first dog ever to appear on the BBC quiz show Pointless with her owner, Kirsten. She's definitely caused something of a stir and a reaction. We'll meet them both in just a moment, but first, here they are from tonight's programme just over an hour or so ago.
Kirsten, welcome to Pointless. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you.
Tell us all about yourself.
So I'm Kirsten, and I've got a fabulous hearing dog called Piccalilli, or Pickle for short.
She stood. She knew she was being talked about and she had to look beautiful. Look at Piccalilli. Just look. There we are.
Well, I think it's fair to say a star is born. Pickle and indeed her owner Kirsten are with us now. How, Kirsten, did you end up on Pointless, first of all?
So it was my husband's idea to help raise funds for hearing dogs for deaf people, because us recipients like to help raise funds for them because they're not government funded at all. So he goes, let's put our names down. And I was there going, it's different when you do it at home.
And Pickle was the first dog to appear on the programme as well.
Yes, she's the first ever assistance dog they've had on there, which is a pointless answer in itself, which we're very proud of.
And she makes a real difference to your life. Just tell me about how she helped potentially save your life as well.
Yes, so hearing dogs are trained, especially those like Pickle, are trained for like everyday sounds. So the kettle, the doorbell, your alarm clock, which is and the fire alarms, which comes on nicely to how you saved everybody's life and my life. It was late at night a week before our wedding. Our neighbour had gone out partying, we learnt since, and left the cooker on. Came back, they fell asleep, not realising they'd still left the cooker on, and their apartment quickly caught fire. The alarm didn't work, but Pickle must have smelt the smoke. And the next thing I know, because I set the alarm, and she's trained to a special alarm that hearing dogs are all trained to.
So you knew straight away something was seriously wrong?
Yes, I thought, we've only just been to bed, like it felt like 5 minutes. But then it quickly turned out it was still pitch black, it was night, and then I caught the smell of smoke in the air, which prompted me to go start investigating round our apartment too.
These animals make such a difference to people's lives, and I know there is a shortage of volunteers or pups, is that right?
Yes, there's a shortage of volunteers to train these fabulous dogs. We rely solely on the kind, generous people to donate their time in training them. So hearing dogs are looking for people in the Selby area, particularly at the minute, to volunteer to train these lifesavers and to help give a deaf person their life back.
Well, she's a beautiful animal. I'd like to take her home with me. She's absolutely lovely. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing your story. And just briefly, in one word, what was being on Pointless like? How would you sum it up?
Nerve-wracking.
Well, from what we saw, you looked very comfortable. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story today. Pickle and Kirsten.
Thank you.
OK, here's tonight's quiz question. Did you know that mushrooms make sounds? No, neither did I. Well, it's just one of the unreal exhibits at a space-themed summer holiday club display, which was revealed in Huddersfield today. A 6-week free art course to keep young hands and minds busy, and Heidi Tomlinson went along to take a look.
The creative culmination of Summer Holiday Art School, a galaxy of space-inspired sculptures.
This is so nice. Oh yeah, how good. It's amazing. Wow, it should be this big, colourful leaves. Oh, it should be hard.
It's the first time families have seen the display after spending hours sticking, gluing and painting.
It was really fun. They are like space mushrooms and stuff like that. You can create whatever you can do in them. It doesn't have to be perfect.
The children feel that they are doing things from scratch and then they are seeing their achievements. So it's a great thing to learn children that it's hard work, but you can reach it in the end.
This is my favourite bit. So when you walk into the exhibition, there are these sensors that give out sounds which are triggered by movement. So this one sort of sings to you, and then it gets you in the mood for the surreal celestial world that's down here. Surreal for sure. Next, we find mushroom music, where acupuncture needles pick up fungi spiking patterns, which is turned into sound, and then humans join in. So to create some music, we pop these little pulse sensors onto our fingers.
Yep, so galvanic skin response, picking up the liquid in your pores.
And then you can use this contraption.
And this is just kind of like a conductor. Conducts music, except I'm conducting the mushroom sounds.
Well, you learn something new every day, and these experiences are all funded by the Arts Council.
It's really important to us that it's inclusive and it's accessible. So we're really keen that everything we do at Make a World is free, so that everyone can come and get involved.
The intergalactic space jungle, complete with a recycled coral reef cloud, is open until Saturday. Pop in and immerse yourself in another world. Heidi Tomlinson, BBC Look North, Huddersfield.
That is one heck of a light and art show, isn't it? And we'll stay on a similar theme. Here's tonight's second quiz question. Did you stay up last night, or did you get up to have a look through the window or the bedroom? I'm talking about last night's supermoon. And I know one lady who was doing a bit of moon gazing last night too.
Well, I was up with a toddler actually, but yes, I did manage to get a glimpse of the moon. And so many of you were up taking photographs. We asked you to send them in last night. Loads of you got in touch to take pictures of this, the rare spectacle of the super blue moon. But what is a blue moon?
A blue moon happens when the pattern of days in a year means there are 13 full moons instead of the usual 12, and we get 2 in a month. It's very rare and only happens about once every 2.5 years, hence the phrase, once in a blue moon. And confusingly, it's nothing to do with its colour. It's not blue at all. It's also a supermoon because it's near the closest point in its orbit around the Earth, appearing bigger and brighter than usual. The last blue moon was in August 2021 and the next one will be in 2026. But the combination of a blue moon and a supermoon is much rarer, and we'll have to wait till 2037 to see it again.
Thank you so much for sending all those pictures in. You can keep your pictures coming in to the Weather Watchers page. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter as well, although it looks very, very cloudy tonight, so I'd be surprised if many of you catch a glimpse, but have a go and send them in if you do. So tomorrow doesn't look like a great day, but the weekend does look a lot better. Tomorrow there'll be a lot of cloud in the forecast. There will be outbreaks of rain, although it will tend to ease through the afternoon, and it should brighten up across southern parts. But I think for most of us, we will hang on to a lot of the cloud. And it's this area of low pressure, this occluded front, which will bring cloud through tomorrow. And then you can see high pressure building in for the weekend and the early part of next week. There'll be some mist and fog by morning, but there'll also be a good deal of dry and bright weather by day, and it will warm up a little as well. So we had a fine morning with some sunshine, but through the afternoon, cloud crept up from the south, and it will continue to do this as we head through the next few hours, bringing with it outbreaks of rain and drizzle, all of it spreading northwards, perhaps some heavier spells as we go through the night. There'll be mist and murk, particularly across the hills, but opposed to last night, it is going to be a mild one. So last night we dropped back down the Vale of York to 3.8 degrees. It'll be more like 13 or 14 degrees, so a much milder night to come underneath all that cloud. Let's have a look at the high water times then. In Scarborough at 5:34 and in Filey at 5:43. So we will start the day on a grey note tomorrow and a damp note too. Further spells of rain and drizzle through the morning. I think it will tend to ease through the afternoon. We may well see some brighter skies edging into parts of South Yorkshire, but any sunshine could trigger the odd sharp shower through tomorrow afternoon. Temperatures up at around 18 or 19 degrees. So to start the day on Saturday, I think there'll be mist, fog and low cloud. This will thin and break and we should see a dry day with some decent spells of sunshine. And just look at these temperatures, a little bit warmer. Sunday too, mist and fog to start the day, but then brightening up with some sunshine. And Monday looks nice as well, Phil.
Hey, here comes summer.
Exactly. Better late than never.
And when are we likely to see the next blue moon? 37 or something?
37. We'll all be ready.
That's it. I'll see you at 10:30. Good night.